All right, welcome to Wednesday morning. So let's get started. We just need a block probably today, and we'll start in Sukasana with the crossed legs. And using those arms alongside. Lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets. Whatever little shifting and squinging you want to do. And then slowly release with the arms, letting the hands rest on the knees, pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders. Inhale and exhale. Wide and flat against the wall behind. Is there any place you can let go of a little bit more? Any place that needs a little bit more strength and energy to support you? Using what you need, letting go of what you don't need. Sounds so simple, but it's not so simple. And then reaching out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips. Breathing those arms up, inhale and exhale, taking up lots of space. Inhale and exhale, breathing down. And let's do that twice more. And then let's take a side bend, right arm coming up and over to the left. And then we're going to pull back with that right arm, nice, slow, big circling around, and then it's going to swoop across and bring you into a twist to the left. Inhale and exhale, arriving in that twist. And coming back to the center, shifting the cross of the legs. And then we will do that to the other side, breathing up through the left arm, up and over to the right. Inhale and exhale. And then a nice slow reach around with that left arm, and it will swoop across, twisting to the right. Coming back to the center, let's come forward and over. Breathing into the back of the body, pouring over. And then coming up, unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae back up on top of the sitting bones. Everything drops into place. And then let's come up and downward facing dog. And walking the dog or anything else you want to do. Really being present with whatever is going on in your body at this moment. When we have something like this where we come up and walk the dog, it's easy to just kind of space out and do the same old, same old. But maybe that's what you want to do today. There's always that possibility. But see if you can really pay attention. As if you've never done this dog walking or whatever you're doing before, really feeling that. Where is your body at this moment? You don't have to like where it is, but just where is it? All right, and then we will finish up and find our best downward facing dog of the moment. Inhaling and exhaling. And what do you need at this moment? And what don't you need that you can let go? Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. Nice big long pull back. Inhale and exhale. And then coming forward onto our stomach into the Sphinx. Pressing that tailbone down into the floor. Rolling back with the hands and with the elbows wide across the collarbones. Reach back through the toes. We'll take a few breaths here. And then really feeling those legs back there, reaching long. And we will bend the right leg. Reach a little longer through the toes, bending the right leg. And as that right leg bends, you take that reach out through the knee. See if you can reach the upper back and the heel a little more toward each other. Lengthen down the front of the right thigh just a little more. And then straighten that right leg out. And let's do the left. Reaching long through both legs and then the left leg bends. And then keep that reach going through the left knee. Left foot and upper back reaching toward each other. a little bit more length down the front of the left thigh, maybe. And then extending that left leg out. So we're going to bend both legs. You need to come down and give those shoulders a break for a moment. Go ahead. And then we'll all be meeting back up in the Sphinx, reaching long through both legs. And then bending the knees. And as those knees bend, reaching more through the knees, heels and upper back. Whoa, good. Toward each other. And then maybe a little more down the front of the thighs, out the knees. And extending those legs out. Maybe there's a little bit more lift in the upper body. You can also adjust where the hands are if you want. Finding a nice cobra for yourself. And then we'll peel back up to downward facing dog. Probably a couple cats and cows along the way is a good idea. And then there will be downward facing dog. And looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Folding over. Couple deep breaths here, drawing up through the legs. Maybe doing a little bend and straighten of the legs, really feeling how those muscles pull the knees up, pull the legs up. So when you're straightening from the bent knees, you want to think pull up rather than push the back of the knee back. And then we will come up to standing. Big front body yawn. Lifting a little more, pressing the arms down, long through the top of the head. Let's circle the shoulders. Up the front, down the back. Inhale and exhale. And then once more, going the other direction. And the front to the back to interlock those fingers. Squeeze the upper arms together, reach down through the back so the hands lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin, coming over, pressing out through the hands. One more breath, and then we'll let go of those hands. Concave back, halfway up, folding over, stepping back with the left leg, so we're in the right lunge. And we'll bring the left knee down, and Jayasana coming up. A little scoop down and forward with the tailbone. And let's circle those arms all the way around. Namaste in front, drawing into the center. And then straighten up that left leg, turning to the elephant rider. Pressing those knees out. Maybe a little squinging in the hips. And then we're going to straighten the legs. Pause a moment, keeping the outer rotation with your straight legs. And then pressing the heels out or turning the toes in, whichever works better for you, into Prasarita Padottanasana, wide apart feet pose. And then let's turn back to the lunge, the right lunge toward the front of the mat. Stepping back to the plank. And then we'll go through the vinyasa in the version. And we'll all be in downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel, reaching down through the other three limbs into the floor. What do you need a little more of now, maybe? What do you need a little less of? And then through to the lunge. And we'll come up in either the high lunge or the warrior. And then we'll twist to the right, arms parallel to the floor towards your front leg. And two options, you can twist, bringing your left hand to the floor or the hands to namaste, left elbow on the right knee. That's always a two option thing there. And then hands to the floor, stepping forward into the concave, back halfway up, folding over, coming up to standing, big front body one. Pressing those arms down long through the top of the head. Just one circle front to the back to interlock the fingers. And lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And coming over. Taking a few breaths here with the interlocked fingers. And then release the hands. And concave back, folding over. Let's step back with the right leg. So we'll have the left lunge. And bringing the right knee down, coming up in Anjayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. And then circling those arms around. Namaste in front. And we'll turn to the elephant rider. A little squinging and shifting, whatever you want to do. And then we'll straighten the legs. Feel like you're dragging the heels a little into the center, keeping that outer rotation to start. So for the outer rotation, you want to think of particularly the outer heels being pulled in. And then turning the feet to parallel. Prasarita Padottanasana. And then we will turn back to our left lunge, fronting the mat, stepping back to the plank, any version of the vinyasa, and downward facing dog. And then take a moment really being in this downward facing dog. And then we'll lift the left leg out. What little bit more might you need now? What can you let go of? And then through to the lunge. Coming up in the high lunge or the warrior. Actually, could even be in GentleVinyasa, the kneeling lunge again. And then we'll twist to the left toward the front leg, arms parallel to the floor. And then two options. Right hand could come to the floor, or maybe elbow to the knee, hands to namaste. And hands to the floor to step forward. Into the concave back, halfway up. Folding over. And let's go back to downward facing dog, jumping or stepping. All right, and then lengthening forward to the plank. And we'll bend the knees as if we're going down onto all fours, but keeping those shins hovering above the floor. So that's going to move your hips back a little bit. And here we are in the beast. A strong core, almost like you're doing a cat back, maybe even trying to do a cat back. For a little more strength in the center. Just a couple more breaths. Gently set the knees down. And let's Asana Namaskar to the floor. Arching that back, hinging back, bend the elbows, pulling forward, lowering down, just like Chaturanga. You don't necessarily have to get that upper chest to the floor. Maybe this is as far as it's going to go today. And then sliding out into the cobra. Pulling the elbows and shoulders back. We'll lighten up on the base of the wrist here if the wrists are getting tired. And then coming down. And let's bring those arms forward to the Sphinx. Settling in here. And we'll reach long through the right leg, bending that right leg. And then we'll reach back for the right foot with our right hand. So maybe rotating the left hand in a little. I find it works a little better if I angle my right or my left forearm into the center a little more. And you can also come down lower to the floor. And then feeling that reach down the front of the right thigh. And that right leg will lift. Maybe it won't actually lift. The more up you have the upper body lifted, the less the leg is likely to lift. So we just have a lifting intention, don't force it. And then letting that go, and we will switch sides. Take a breath in the center, and then as you're ready, bending the left leg. And reaching back for that left foot or ankle, making whatever adjustments you need to in the upper body. Really reach down the front of that left thigh and then lifting up. Like I said, nothing might lift up much, so don't distort yourself and strain to try to actually lift that left thigh. And then bringing that down. And let's come down and reaching the arms long and forward in front. And just take a couple breaths, long and flat against the floor. A little drawing of the abdominal muscles up into the spine as that tailbone presses down and reaches out through the feet. All right, so we're going to do pretty much that same thing from here. There'll be more lifting available though. As we bend our right leg, take the right hand back to the right ankle. All right, so we're going to try to lift everything off the floor, including the extended left side. Inhale and exhale. Nice big round breath. And coming down. Bring that right leg front, the right arm front. And then we'll do the left. Reach for a moment, bend the left leg, getting hold of that left ankle. And then here we go, lengthening out to lift up, and then breathing. And coming down. Bring that left arm forward again. Take a sort of indulgent stretch on the floor in this position, or maybe an indulgent let go of everything. And let us heal ourselves up. And we'll do Sukasana, the Camel Pose. Just something to even out both sides of the back. So maybe your Camel Pose is going to be really big because we've kind of warmed up. Or maybe it's going to be small so that you don't strain anything. Mostly we're just going to reestablish symmetry is the main point. All right, and you can always come back up and regroup and go back in. Let's see if we can take 4 or 5 nice big round breaths here. I think that was more than 4 or 5. Yeah. It started to feel really good. So feel free to breathe more, or if this is enough. And we'll make our way to downward facing dog, maybe a couple of cats and cows along the way. Downward facing dog. And if you'd like to go through a vinyasa, going through a vinyasa. I'm demonstrating the or not version. And then we'll lift our right leg, reaching long through the heel, bending the knee, dog at the high fire. And then through to the lunge, warrior number 2. Reaching through the inner thigh to the inner knee to the foot. Tailbone does a little scoop down and under, wide and flat against the wall behind. And let's hinge into the triangle, pressing the right foot into the floor, pulling up through the right leg to tilt yourself. Reaching back with the left arm, coming up to standing. Keep going into the side bend, right arm up. Back into the triangle. And then coming down to the lunge. Stepping back to the plank. Vinyasa, downward facing dog. And we'll just take that around on the left. Lifting the left leg up. And dog at the high fire height. Through to the lunge. And warrior number 2 on the left. Reaching through the inner thigh, the inner knee, center of the foot. Flatten against the wall behind you. But there's a little scoop under in that tailbone. So that just like in the warrior 1, we kind of bridge pose action forward here. It's not going to move as much. It doesn't feel like a bridge pose maybe, but there's still that little draw under and lift up in the abdominals. And then into the triangle. Press that left foot into the floor, pulling up through the left leg, tilting yourself over. And then reaching back with that right arm, coming all the way up into the side bend, left arm comes up. And back to that triangle. And coming down, stepping back, Vinyasa, downward facing dog. And then check what your hands are doing there. And let's lift our right leg up. And then we're going to hover plank. Inhale and exhale, knee center. And lift. And then to the left elbow across a little bit. And lift. And then we're going to go to the right elbow. And then a little contract up to step that right foot onto the floor in the lizard lunge on the outside of the right hand. You might want to move your hands a little closer to the center as needed. So put that right foot out at the outer edge of the mat.
Thank you.
Ah, feeling like you're dragging the right heel back and then bringing the left knee down. So my arms are inside and my foot's wide. It's just moving a little to see where it is. All right, and then we are going to take a little circle around here, a little forward to the right and back and to the left. And 3 more times this direction. And then we'll go the other direction over to the left, around and forward. And we will go to the pigeon, walking our right foot over to the left and taking our right knee back over to the right and into the pigeon. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the and then coming forward and over. Inhale and exhale, sleepy pigeon. And then we will come up, lengthening up. Oh, and we're going to reach through our left foot. We're going to let the right leg straighten out so that we turn to Konasana, the angle pose. Ah, giving a little lift up from behind, reaching through the heels. And then setting those sitting bones down, and we will come forward. Inhale and exhale, hands wherever they're useful to you, behind on the legs in front. Breathing into the center, exhale, pouring out. We can actually do the opposite as well. Inhale, reaching out. Exhale, strong into the center. Similar idea, but I find it can feel very differently. And then come up. And we'll twist to the right toward the front leg. That's not going to matter which leg because we're doing both. And coming out over that right leg. So it's sort of Janu Shirsasana, but we're doing it more like a yoga stretch than necessarily the Janushirasana sort of pose. And reaching out through that left inner thigh, an oppositional pull away. And coming up, and we'll go to the left, the other side. Taking a little twist, facing your left leg, and then making your way forward. And we're being a little more indulgent, perhaps finding a good version for you, not necessarily trying to square your shoulders to that left leg like you would be if you were Janushirasana. Maybe letting that left arm reach a little further than the right. And that right inner thigh reaching back through the heel. And coming up. And then we're going to pivot ourselves back to the front of the mat. Two options. Number one, the cross leg Sukasana. So the left leg will come around the front. Or maybe that left leg up on top of the right into the double pigeon or the box pose. All right, so we're doing that. You could do the full lotus pose, for instance, also just pointing that out. Actually, maybe some of you can do it. For some people, it is not necessarily the most difficult pose ever. All right, finding our long and spacious spine, and then we will come forward. Inhaling and exhaling. So, what can you let go of here that you don't need? And is there anything you do? Maybe a little more press through the inner heels if you're in that box pose or double pigeon. And then coming up, uncurling that spine back up on top of the sitting bones. And let's unfold our legs and expand up into the forward bend. Taking your time, if you want to roll back and forth on the feet in a little ball for a moment, go ahead and do that. And then expanding into the forward bend. Taking a few breaths here. And then we will make our way back to downward facing dog, vinyasa or not. And then we'll eventually all be in downward facing dog. And then starting off with some hover planks as we lift our left leg. And knee to the center, inhale and exhale. Inhale to lift, right elbow across. And lift, left elbow. So you might be able to just step your shin down here. I find I need to do a little like cap back lift to make space, and then bring that left foot forward onto the outside of the left leg. So we have that lizard lunge first. So my left foot's at the outer edge of the mat, my arms are inside the leg, my right foot is kind of center of the mat or maybe a little to the right. I'm pulling back in that left heel a moment. And then bringing the right knee down. And then let's circle those hips around, forward, left, around to the right. 3 more times this way. And then we will go the other direction. Right, around, and left. We're doing it 4 times, of which I have now lost count. So whenever you feel like you've done this plenty enough, which is probably about now, walking the left foot across to the right, left knee goes back over to the left and into the pigeon. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down. And coming forward and over, sleeping pigeon. And then coming up. And we'll reach back through that right leg and turn ourselves to Konasana, the angle pose. Lift up and stretching out. And then landing on the sitting bones for a moment and coming forward. Inhale and exhale. And feeling that breath. Maybe you can feel more of an exhale pour out or an inhale reach out. One might be your preference or what you're doing right now. Or maybe you can't really tell. And then maybe doing a little experiment with each version. Inhale, reaching out, making space. Exhale, deepening into the space, flowing into the center. And then there's inhaling into the center. Exhale, pouring. And then you will come up. And so let's see, this time you can choose to keep the legs straight, but this time let's go to the Janu Shirsasana half dragonfly, bending our left leg. And then we'll twist toward the right leg toward the back of the mat and coming forward over the right. And you can really work to do those square shoulders, left hand even with the right, or maybe looking for a good version of this as a stretch for yourself, which might be similar to, but maybe not exactly like the lines of the yoga. And coming up, we'll switch legs, switch sides, bending the right leg. And twisting to the left towards your straight leg. And coming up. Coming up. Extend that right leg out again. Just take a little stretch along the back of both legs for a moment. And then we'll turn to the front of the mat, bending your left leg, and then the right leg can come across either in the cross leg Sukasana, or maybe up to the double pigeon. Let's see, there's all sorts of possible poses one could actually do here. That's Antasana, double prasana. All right, but here we are, wherever we are. Taking a breath or two there. And then coming forward. And then coming up, disentangling those legs, slide front. And we'll take a forward bend, Paschimottanasana, evening all those sides out. However many sides you happen to have. And then making your way down to the floor and into Shavasana. Inhale and exhale, letting go, just melting into the maybe as you take a moment to consider what you need and what you don't need at this moment. Pretty much we don't need anything. Just letting go. And let's take one more long breath here. Inhaling all the way to the top of that inhale, suspending a moment, gently suspending. And then a nice slow, easeful exhale, pouring all the way down to the bottom of that exhale into that little pool of stillness. And then moving the fingers and toes, maybe a little circling of the wrists and ankles. Stretching the arms up overhead. Bending the knees to gently make your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. And namaste. Thank you for coming, and thank yourself for coming as well.